Hello and welcome to coverage of the first DMR versus MRL 10 versus 10 race. Tonight, 10 of DMR's best will face off against their MRL equivalent around the Circuit Gille Villeneuve in Canada. This 4.36 kilometre lap plays host to 14 turns, 6 of those go to the left and 7 to the right. Most of these make up chicanes which undulate throughout the lap in a very, very characteristic fashion. Of course, the final of these chicanes has made a bit of a name for itself. The wall on exit has led to the demise of Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve in the 90s, which gave it the name the Wall of Champions. Since then, this unfortunate tyre barrier has claimed many more victims, including most recently Kevin Magnussen. There have, however, been plenty of other historic moments of this circuit. Hamilton ran into the back of Raikkonen in the pit lane in 2008, and of course Jenson Button put together a historic, simply magnificent drive in 2011, winning with 6 pit stops. 6 of them. That is, in fact, the all-time record. Now, tonight is not all about bragging rights, although there are a lot of those at stake. Additionally, the winner will take home a copy of F1 2020 that is valued at £44.99p on Steam, so there is certainly some pressure should you be lapping near the front. With all that said and done, my name is Tom Davis, and I will be taking you through tonight's action. The drivers are just going out on track, and as you'll notice, the guys are split into teams. Representing DMR, we have Williams, Haas, Renault, Racing Point, and Mercedes. And then the rest of the guys are the Misfits Racing League. Contenders racers, if you will. Format-wise, we'll get through all this stuff in a minute, I promise. We're looking at the exact same as all of the previous DMR races. So we've got a short qualifying session, followed up by a 50% race. Of course, the grid is exactly how they finish in qualifying. You qualify in the top 10, you have to use the same tyres that you qualified on for the race. You qualify outside the top 10, you get completely free tyre choice. You must make at least one pit stop. In that pit stop, you must change the tyres onto a different compound so that you use 2 different tyre compounds across the race. All your usual F1 things, except of course points don't matter. It's all or nothing. In fact, we've got our first few guys heading out on track as it stands. And we shall wait and see what sort of lap times come in. We were supposed to have Luke representing DMR, and he did in fact win the no assists race here at Canada, but he's been unable to attend, so we have fortunately brought in a few of our, I'd say, very excited replacements as such, and they are looking forward to a wonderful condition and a wonderful competition, as I'm sure you guys are too. We'll go on board with our first contender, the funky JJ, as he comes through the first couple corners. It's crucial to get a massively strong exit out of turn number 2 as you then descend into turn 3. This one falls away from you, so you've got to make sure you take a lot of curb, hook the front wheel around to rotate the car. Then you come through what is technically turn number 5 at the right hander and brake down for 6. You either want to take a lot of curb here or not too much at all as you then get on the power, accelerate out. This is in fact a DRS zone. You won't see much overtaking down here since it's a particularly short one, but you've got to remember that in qualifying. You then curve through the chicane at 8 and 9. It opens out on the exit so you can get as good a possible run into the hairpin. Get it stopped on the brakes just as the surface changes colour, and then again you fire it out. Come round the kink. Avoid that curb. It's tempting to try and shorten the run, but it's not worth it. It'll just destabilise the car. He's got a nice little toe there from his teammate, and then the DRS pops open, air flows through. You've got to pick your braking point for the chicane. Make sure you get it stopped so you can fire it out. That's the Wall of Champions on your right. You can see just how close they get to it. The first few times have been set. Where is the funky JJ going to come in? He sits into P4, which is not too bad at all, but only to be beaten by over a second for DMR Fluffy Balls. We'll wait and see how the lap times progress, but obviously, as it stands, the track's not rubbered in yet. It seems like it's a little bit of a cool day. You know, it's definitely not cold, but it's not as warm as it can be in Canada. So the cars, they'll help heat it up a little bit, they'll stick some rubber down on the track to make the surface just that little bit more sticky, and the time should improve as we go throughout the session. Strategy-wise, pretty much anything is viable around Canada. We've got to be honest. Now, it's possible to overtake, but not easy as such. It's not Monaco, but it's certainly not somewhere like Brazil in terms of overtake opportunities. So you are looking towards making sure that you can overtake as many people as possible on strategy, and that's just why you see many drivers out there on a variation of tyres. Now, you would expect the soft tyre to be the fastest, but that hasn't stopped the third place Alfa Romeo putting in a solid time on the mediums, and then of course the medium and the hard come down after that one. There is some credit starting on the medium. You can of course go longer in that first stint, make sure that you overtake as many cars as possible in the pit stop window, but at the same time of course you are going to be slower off the line, so you could lose those places before the first quarter has even arrived. Everybody's just coming into the pits just now, but we shall see if we can take a look at one of the guys who is out on track. That is the Toro Rosso. We saw the first one, Funky JJ. He's just beginning to drop down the time screens, but Alex Bitto is next up to set a lap. He's not set a time at all yet, let alone a representative one, so he shall descend into the first turn, and we'll just take a listen as he comes around to start this one. It's looking pretty good so far. Through the first sector, in case you didn't notice, he was in fact purple. Now that means he's gone fastest of anybody, and a little bit quicker than you'd anticipate. He's certainly got the hammer to the metal at the moment. He's got his foot to the floor, if you will. He'll come round, and this is the crucial breaking point. He's got to get it right for the hairpin, and he's done just that. Nice and tidy, accelerates out. Now listen to this as he goes up through the gears. He maxes out every single one of them. He's going to get a handy little tow from the Ferrari ahead as that Ferrari goes into the pit lane. So you'll have that loss of downforce all the way down the straight. That helps him get a slightly higher top speed. DRS pops open. What's it going to be for Alex? Will he go top? Only P4. He had sector 1, but didn't quite put together the second two sectors. And he'll be hoping he can find the time in that part of the lap come the end of the session, because he's definitely got the potential to be up there. Just as we say that, it becomes a Haas 1-2 at the top. Absinthe setting the fastest time of the day with a 108.4, which is very, very impressive. These guys lapping ridiculously quickly. Now, of course, there is a little bit of difference between the game and real life, but just to put into perspective how on it these guys are at the moment, the fastest lap in real life here is a 1 minute 10.764 set by Sebastian Vettel in 2018. These guys are over 2 seconds quicker than that already, and the times will continue to tumble. We've got 10 minutes left in the session, and just when you say that, Chris now goes top of the timing screens with a 108.3. It's simply ridiculous how fast these cars are going, and grid position can be crucial around here, because there's only about 160 meters from the start line down to turn number 1, where your first braking point is. So if you're not on the grid where you want to be, you're going to struggle to have sort of a miracle start, if you will. You can make up a couple, that's for sure. There's different lines viable through the first corner, and you can run it wide around turn 1 to then gain the inside for turn 2, but it's not somewhere where you can slipstream off the line like Sochi, for example. Pole is definitely better than second, which is definitely better than third, so you will be rewarded for putting it up the top, and that's just what Fouini has done. He was in fact one of the reserves filling in for the DMR missing drivers, and he's proving his worth. I doubt he'll be a reserve next time out if he can stay in P number 2. Just as we say that, Fluffy Balls comes along and goes fastest as well. So we expect these times to keep on coming down. They're now at a 108.259, which is very, very impressive. And DMR kind of dominating the top at the moment. You've got Fluffy Balls and Hwani in the top 3. Chris is also, of course, DMR. He's sitting P2. Absinthe, also DMR. Luke, of course, has the tag. We know that he is. So the top 6 drivers, 5 of them are from DMR. Now, of course, coverage is reasonably unbiased, but as the DMR lead commentator, I've got to be honest, I am very, very happy with these standings so far, at least. A few of these guys, of course, currently on out laps, in laps, and all the like. MRL Freeware has put in a pretty solid first sector, but he has invalidated the lap. That's what that big red kind of highlighting on the track map that you guys can see means. So this lap, regardless of how quick he goes, will not matter. And the guys are now just beginning to sight them out. If you've got 7 minutes left in the session, as you can see, a minute 8 for a lap. So you're probably looking about a minute 15 for an out lap, a minute 15 for an in lap. That very quickly adds up. So you're looking about 4.5 minutes total to get a full run in. So in theory, you could get 2 more in. But you would have to push quite hard to guarantee being able to get in and out of the pits and get your tyres changed in time to actually manage that. You'd almost have to do a racing pit stop. So it's likely that from this point onwards, we only see the guys setting 1 more lap. So if you see somebody change their time, that is them. They will probably be up there for the rest of the session. MRL Freeware, he's currently on a lap, I believe. He'll come through, and I think he's invalidated it already in the first sector. Just took a little bit too much curb into turn number 1. And as a result, that is game over. Lap done for him. And we shall see if we can get a little look on board with Absinthe on his next lap. He's currently flying. He's gone purple in sector 1. Avoids the curb through the corners at 6 and 7. That gives him a really nice slingshot onto this back, almost straight, if you will. Brakes, gets it turned in, a lot of curb, an aggressive line through 8 and 9. Keeps it wide, and it's all about minimizing the resistance. Make sure these tires get the maximum possible amount of grip and traction forwards without slowing themselves down on the air that they're flying through at about 150, 160, 70, 80 miles an hour already down the back straight. He's got the DRS wide open. Will he be able to spot the braking point into the final chicane? He's absolutely nailed it. Avoids it. Gets a little bit of a touch on the wall of champions. That will scrub a little bit of speed, but it should be an improvement for Absinthe. It's a small one of about 0.06 of a second, but he does not climb up the order. In fact, he only needed about 1 more hundredth to find there, and he would have overtaken Chen for 5th position. But as it stands, DMR still up there, still dominating the time screens. 5 minutes left to go in the session, and I believe MRL Chen, the Misfits Racing League's champion at the moment, comes through sector 1. How is he looking? It's pretty reasonable. He's found over a 10th already. This is looking like a good lap so far from the Alfa Romeo as he heads down towards turn number 8. He takes a very, very straight line entry to that one. Then gets on the power out of the corner. How is he looking? The sector 2 split comes up right about now. Where is it going to be? He's now 700ths up and a lockup into the hairpin. That might lose him the time. He's got it all to do through the final chicane. He had it in the first sector, lost it in the second sector. Absolutely a monster middle sector from the pole man at the moment, but he's still in with a chance. He comes down into the final chicane, turns in, brakes across the chicane as much as you possibly dare. DRS open as early as possible on the throttle. What's it going to be for the Alfa Romeo? It's pole by about 400ths of a second. These guys are on it at the top of the timing screens with about a 10th separating the top 3, which is simply ridiculous. We then got to ask ourselves, what has Fluffy got to answer it? He's currently in the pit lane, so we'll wait and see when he comes out. Now, like we mentioned, you are looking probably about a minute and 15, minute 20, depending on what kind of outlap you want to set. So as a result, when will he leave? There is some amount to be gained utilizing that slipstream, But of course, every little bit of slipstream you gain, you lose a little bit of downforce. That's how the slipstream works. So in the corners, you might lose that time. So it's all about getting it absolutely nailed, as I believe Huaney is going out of the pit. So we'll ride on board with him. He's the first one to blink. He's going to get out, and he's taken the opinion that if there's no cars around him, sure, I won't get the slipstream, but I'll make sure that it's just me. It's only me setting this lap. There's nobody else around to mess it up. There's no back markers in my way. There's no slower cars in front of me. Nobody behind me even gaining a tow. I'm just going to go out, do my own thing, and see if I can get up the order, because he's right on the cusp of that front row. If he can find 0.08 of a second, then he's on the front row, which as ever is a huge, huge difference to when compared to the second row. Of course, you start from the front, you've got the person alongside you to beat, and that is it. You start from second, you've got the person alongside you, and you've got to keep an eye on not bashing your wing off the guys in front, or potentially even trying to juke a way through between them. If one of the guys in front gets a slow start, then you have to take that into account as well. So it is really, really important where these guys start. He's weaving a little bit, potentially struggling to get some temperature in those tyres, but he'll break into the final chicane, out, across the wall of champions. How good is his exit? It seems pretty reasonable, and we'll just listen in on this crucial lap. He's invalidated it already. He'll get another chance. These tyres won't be worn yet. He'll be able to come round and try a faster lap as such. It's not completely game over for him, but it'll be a little bit of a mind game, won't it? He's potentially been looking up on his time. He was definitely tidy through the first couple of corners, and then it all went wrong. So now he's got to reset, come round again, and just nail the first two corners for the second time in a row, but then make sure that you don't make a mistake in the third one. Fluffy Balls, he was previously pole before Chen stole it by the skin of his teeth, so he'll be looking to try and improve. He's in fact on purple in the final sector on the outlap, which I'm sure will in fact be a technical glitch. He comes through the first couple of corners looking pretty clean, but there was a touch on the grass there that might compromise his exit just a little bit through the chicane. However, he looks clean and confident, really attacking the corners, and he's purple in the first sector. 1.4 tenths up on Chen. Comes out of the trickle part in that middle of the lap. DRS wide open, gallons and gallons of air flowing through there every single second. Clean through turns 8 and 9, but potentially not too quick. You saw he was able to turn the car in, but he's maintained that 10th.5 gap. He's not found anything more, but he's just about there. That Williams gets right out of the way. Sorry, Mercedes. And that explains why, just potentially not wanting to give the tow, which is a little unusual considering they're both DMR, but it's worth not getting in the way at the chicane. Fluffy comes through the final chicane. Where is it going to be? Is it going to be pole? Because he definitely had it in the middle of the lap, across the line, and it's not an improvement. He was 700 slower. Chen will breathe a sigh of relief. He is in fact out on track trying to improve the time. He comes through the final chicane. He's got nobody in front of him that is going faster. However, he does have Chris just a little bit behind, so we'll keep an eye on that. However, there's a racing point in the wall there. That could potentially be Chris, but staying with Chen, Yoda now pops up out of nowhere to take pole. He's pushed the boundary even further. Can Chen reclaim it? It's an all MRL front row. As it stands, Chen, pole, shoves another 10th into that time. What has Chris got? Chris is in the pits. Chris doesn't think he can improve. Anybody else out on track? You've got Huaney. Huaney improves just a little bit to take P6. Alex Bit comes across the line. He does not improve. You've got one of the Renaults, I believe that's DMR Vexit, come across the line. Can Vexit gain any time on this final attempt? He can. He finds 7 tenths, but it's not enough to move him up the order. And that will be your grid. All Misfits Racing League front row. Yoda coming up to save their bacon at the end, meaning that it's an Alpha and a Ferrari that you'll see on the grid. You'll then have DMR, Fluffy and Absinthe representing Haas and the Delta Motor Racing League in 3rd and 4th. Chris and Whaney in P5 and 6. And then your top 10 is rounded out by Alex, Nethluke, Vexit, and Henner. This is going to be close. Look at the times there. That is simply ridiculous. So, qualifying out of the way, and of course we did mention Vexit in the end there. He came across the line in that Renault. He's got the medium tyres on, so starting from 9th with the medium tyre, definitely don't count him out of the equation. Of course, you look at that, you've got 0.0 or 0.1 something covering the top 5 cars. This really matters. F1 2020, all of these guys will race on it. They'll all be looking to defend their respective league reputations, and in some cases crowns. So if they can get that game for free, it will certainly help them. Of course, now is race time. Qualifying helps you out, but this is the bit that really, really matters. You don't win the £50 game by coming on pole, no. You win the game by winning the race. And we've seen plenty of incidents over the years here, both in real life and in the game. Of course, we mentioned Jenson Button winning the race after 6 pit stops. In that race, he crashed into both a Ferrari and his teammate. So you can have crazy, crazy things happening here. That is for sure. Now, of course, it does help if you don't hit the wall, but we saw people hitting the wall in the DMR race here as well. Remember the no assists race? We had chaos down the back straight, 2 people into the wall of the champions, 3 people in the wall beforehand. This track certainly throws up a few surprises, and you might be wondering, well, why are there? You know, what's requiring there to be walls? Brazil doesn't have walls. It's a fantastic track. This track, whilst it might not seem it, is essentially a street track in how it was designed. Of course, it is a permanent racetrack. Don't forget that for a second. But it's built on an artificial island. The island was put together for a big show happening in the 1967. It was built for the Expo. And since then, the island was used for many, many things. And in fact, a large part of the track, where the drivers are right now, runs alongside the Olympic basin built for the 1976 Summer Olympics. You can see it just there in the background. That big volume of water was used for the rowing and canoeing events in the Olympics. So the track in this part of the world is not new to high-level sporting events. And now we've got esports, virtual Formula 1, if you will, coming here, and I am very, very excited. The drivers have all been trying to get plenty of heat into their tyres and brakes, was maintaining that paradox of keeping the engine cool, and now it is go time. Chen on pole for MRL. Can he maintain his position in the race that really, really matters? He's got his teammate, if you will, Yoda alongside, but all DMR row 2 and 3 will try to apply as much pressure as they can. The lights will come on any moment now. The drivers, as focused as you'll see them. Tunnel vision most certainly beginning to set in. You know, Fluffy and Absinthe, they were on pole respectively during the session, but it was pinched from the Delta Motor Racing guys at the end. Keep an eye out for DMR Vexit. He's on the medium tyre compound, so we'll be surging through in the second half of the stint. The red lights come on, engine notes rise, and so does the tension. We're racing. DMR versus MRL. The first time of asking, it's a good start from pole, but not from second place. And in fact, Fluffy is going to challenge into turn number 1 further in the field. It's just about being kept clean, but it's the Haas around the outside. Can he get the run? Yes, he can. He's already into second, and he's going to look to challenge for the lead into turn number 3. It's all done. He was on pole until the end, and he's into the lead of the race before we've even completed the first sector. Further down the order, it seems like everybody just about filing through, and you can bet Chen and Yoda will be really looking to make sure they can make up for those mistakes. Further down the order, you've got a little battle between Vexit and David. We mentioned that Vexit's tyres, they'll take a little bit longer to get up to temperature, and it's going to have to cut across the little chicane there to make sure that he doesn't in fact hit his teammate. DMR David then challenging MRL Blah into the hairpin. He's going to get a better exit because, again, the medium tyres just not giving the grip at the slow speeds that you require early on in this race. He won't have the DRS down the straight. Will he be able to look for it into the chicane? He'll have the brakes, he'll have the grip, but he also has been given the outside lines. He'll have to sit and play patience for a little while. Up at the front, it is very close. Alfa Romeo, Chen, he's not given up on this one yet. He was mugged off the line, getting a little bit caught up in terms of exit out of turn number 2. That gave Fluffy the lead, and now he's attempting to make a break, but he simply cannot do it. Remember, 1 second is the magic number. That is when you will no longer have the DRS. If you are outside 1 second, it's so much harder to even consider making overtake. As long as you're within it, you'll have that drag reduction system both through Sector 2 and the final and pit straight. So a lot of time to be gained with the DRS in this, but it might not be that the Alpha needs it. He's attacking, he's aggressive through the hairpin. He cuts inside for the cutback, not quite going to have it. Files in behind. Can he get up alongside as they come in towards the chicane? He's been forced towards the outside, but he's definitely got the run. Will we see a Haas appear on the inside? No, we don't. It is Chen who leads, but a kick of oversteer onto the straight. Can the Haas come back at him? He pulls to the inside, does Chen. He's got to cover the inside if he wants a chance of holding it. There's a bit of squeezing, a little bit of contact, wheel bashing even, but Fluffy's not giving in. He really wants this win, and just keep an eye on Bois for MRL in the Red Bull. He's managed to put in the fastest lap of the race on the medium tyre, so we'll keep an eye on his progress as the laps continue to clock in. But at the front, it is as close as ever. And let's just listen in with Chen as he follows the Haas through the second half of this lap. He's not quite going to be close enough this time around. He didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't quite get the exit. Now, the DRS, it will, like we mentioned, have a huge effect. It'll pull him up towards the Haas, and in fact, he'll just show himself to the mirrors, just like, hey, I'm still here. Don't you get too comfortable. I'm applying the pressure, and you got to make sure that you don't crack. And in fact, that's a little bit of a mistake from Fluffy there. He didn't cover the inside. He'll have to sweep it around the outside. It's exactly like he did for the overtake on lap 1 and last time around. But he's still going to have the inside into turn number 3, and that's just about enough. The attack from Chen fended off once more, and what Fluffy really wants right now is Absence to get involved. He's got Chen just behind him and Yoda just behind that. Both of those guys are from MRL. Whilst they won't let each other by, a big slide for the Alfa Romeo out of turn number 7. He'll just about maintain the position over the Ferrari driver, not worth the risk of ascend into turn 8. But he's got to be careful. If he pushes those tyres too hard, he will feel the effects of that later on in the race, and potentially that's why we're already seeing him fall away. The Funky JJ, he's picked up a 3-second time penalty, which will cost him a little bit, but he should be able to serve that in the pit stop, so you won't have that weighing on him towards the end of the race as such. Now, DMR, Vexit and Liam at the back, seems like they've gotten caught up in a little bit of a scuffle. Now, we'll keep the camera on these guys at the front because this is what really matters, but if you look at the track map, you can see those two. They're a long way back, some 17 seconds off the back of the field, and they've both changed their tyres as well, so Either a little bit of an unorthodox strategy, a massive undercut attempt potentially, or what is more likely a little bit of a mistake, as I just got a little bit distracted by the sudden flurry of penalties that came in, and another huge skid for Chen. This time he might be punished. Yoda anticipated it. He saw it coming. He was already looking to the inside. This time he gets it done, but then slides across the chicane. These guys are on the limit, and potentially a little bit more, as now Chen, under pressure from Absent. Can he get it done? Even potentially threatening the Ferrari. No changes of places just yet, as now Huemi looks to get involved. They file in as they were for the straight, but they're so close. They'll be able to draw an F1 diffuser from memory by the time they reach the end of the race if this continues. Ferrari defends the inside, then draws back to the racing line and brakes, which he's in his right to do, as Chen into the wall of champions. It claims yet another victim in this chaos. There is absolute chaos further down the field. What has happened? Just looked like Chen in the wall of champions, and that was enough for near enough the entire field to end up getting caught together. Chen, he ran a little bit hot. We saw his oversteer. We saw the signs of those tires going off. We thought it was the rears that were losing grip, but it turned out the fronts were also doing it. Carried a little bit too much speed. Outbraked himself. Understeered into the wall. This will now play a few interesting things with strategy, because of course it was a huge pile-up. We've lost 4 drivers in that one as they just collided with the Alfa Romeo wall extension that Chen had become. So we're on lap 6 of 35. If you can pit this time around, of course you will lose less time, because the guys are not going as fast under safety car conditions as they would be normally. That's why the safety car exists, so you slow down for the sake of safety. It's in the name. 31 laps left to race here, and we'll see what tires they go on to. That is possible on a set of mediums. You'd normally like to go a little bit further on these softs, but it's certainly doable. It would just be very, very tricky. You've got to make sure to maintain the tires in both temperature and in terms of wear, as the Hasses, they double stack. Absent having the exact same idea as Fluffy. Into the pit lane they came, and Fluffy was still in the pits. Fluffy was still there when Absent came in. Absent subsequently has lost so much time. He was previously 4th. He's going to be 9th as he comes out to the pits. 5 cars to overtake. We know he has the pace because he was there or thereabouts previously. But he's got to prove it now. He's got all the work to do, but fortunately for him, the cars at the front have been holding each other up a little bit. So if he can scythe through that traffic, as we know he's got the pace to, then he's certainly still in with chance. Now keep an eye on the front of the field here, because DMR Luigi, as well as Total Wizard and Zamet, I believe it is, Zamix, they are all still running the set of tires they were on previously. Zamus, sorry, I do apologise. I was told this literally yesterday. But they're all still running the same set of mediums. These are the guys who started further down the grid and thus had free tire choice. They went for the medium tire, thinking that they can go longer, potentially try and get a few of these cars with the overcut, just pit late, come out on a set of soft tires, maybe get a couple people in the pits, and then have a really fast car, because you've got the fast tire and the lighter fuel load, so you can put in some really quick laps at the end of the race. That's now been a little bit undermined, to say the least, because they're doing these laps on the safety car. The other guys have got a free pit stop. In fact, Fluffy is already on their tail, and they've got to lose, it's about 18 seconds for a pit stop around here under racing conditions. They can't pit yet, because they've got to run 2 tyre compounds. You won't get the soft to the end from here, and the hard will be ridiculously slow. So all their options are to stay out, which is going to be very, very tricky to win from. Of course, Liam has also been put in a little bit of a predicament by this. He was involved in that earlier incident that we didn't quite catch. He's still out there on a set of 5 lap-old mediums, but they've got work to do now, to say the least. In terms of driving behind the safety car, it's much the same as the formation lap, really. You're not allowed to go too fast. Of course, you also cannot go too slow. You've got to work on getting and maintaining temperature in the brakes and the tyres, and that's why you see the cars weaving, just to try and put a little bit more load into the tyres. But all of that energy has to come from somewhere, and the only place energy comes from on a Formula 1 car is the power unit, the engine. But you need the engine to stay cold, so somehow you need to get energy out of the engine and put it into the brakes and tyres. All of it. Else your engine overheats and you are in big, big trouble. That's the paradox of driving a Formula 1 car slowly. Now, as you saw, safety car in this lap. Luigi, he is now the pace car. He sets the pace. He can go at whatever pace he wants. However, he's not allowed to change it suddenly until he really goes. It's his choice as to when the race restarts. He's leaving it very late here, as I believe he will go now. Midway through the chicane, no, he's left it, and then he accelerates just beyond the exit curve of the Wall of Champions, potentially not looking to make any mistakes. There's an incident, I believe that's Huaney getting past Yoda as they run into turn number 1. He's now going around the outside of Zamus. That's not quite going to be done, but he'll need to get by quickly because he's on the fresh tyres. He's got that fresh sticky rubber, and Yoda will be looking to get him right back for that cheeky move he managed to play on Yoda himself. Of course, Fluffy has lost out a little bit to Yoda as well, so a sloppy restart from some of these guys as your effective race leaders. That's the guys in P4, and down come towards turn number 8. It's an aggressive attempt at an overtake from Luigi. He has in fact got it done as Zamus runs very, very deep. That allows Yoda through as well, but it's Fluffy who's going to get a little bit stuck. But now Zamus again going wide, potentially just not able to have those tyres stick to the track at the moment compared to the guys around him. Of course, you see the car in front brake that late and you think, I've got to do that, I've got to stay with him. But if you've got the older tyres, you simply cannot. DMR Huaney, next on his hit list is Total Wizard as Luigi picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That's likely to be track extension, shall we call it, as Huaney already through on the racing point, and he's now hoping Total Wizard holds up Yoda a little bit. And in fact, both of these guys racing for Delta Motor Racing, so there is a chance that there's a little bit of ease in overtaking the racing point that Yoda might not have go his way. And in fact, Huaney is using that whilst he can. As Total Wizard very, very defensive into turn number 6. Yoda eventually finds a way through, and now we'll see if Total Wizard is going to do the same as he did before. We saw he didn't defend quite as hard as maybe he could have against the earlier DMR driver. Will he do the same for Fluffy? All of this, however, has certainly cost Yoda. If we go on board for just a moment, that's visually such a huge gap that simply wasn't there before. They were nose to tail in the first stint, and with the use of Total Wizard, Huaney has been able to extend 1.8 seconds. A little bit of movement down the straight for the Ferrari, that potentially just to help him get some temperature into the front tyres before he reaches the chicane, because as we saw, turning in with cold or worn tyres can be absolutely brutal at that chicane. Huaney, he's making hay whilst the sun shines. He's got the gap to his teammates, both in terms of their lead and their actual car in game, down to 1.3 seconds as he set the fastest lap of the race. But crucially, that fastest lap of the race has opened that gap behind him up to 2.1 seconds. So Huaney is now very, very much in the driver's seat when 1 day ago he didn't even have a seat. So he is definitely making the most of this opportunity. Further down the field, there's a little bit of a battle going on for 7th position. And in fact, when I say a little bit of a battle, what I really meant was an absolute train. These guys will all be quicker than the car in front of them because they'll have that little bit more of a slipstream as they come down the straight, and they are all filing through the hairpin. It's like watching a colony of ants as they come round that one. Just so many more of them than you can even consider counting. DRS pops open for everybody except Zamus, but Zamus just about had enough of a gap to not come under pressure, and it's in fact Henner who looks for the cutback on Total Wizard. Will he be able to get by? This is DMR versus MRL, and there was contact. Aggressive defense from Wizard. He's going to swoop across the track. Will he stay out of the way of the rest of the guys? He's taken crits, gets off Villeneuve him, which isn't ideal. Total Wizard gets a 5-second time penalty. Apparently Absinthe also involved with that one. He's dropped down the order after a suboptimal pit stop, to say the least. Total chaos caused by that. Simply ridiculous. Simply ridiculous. We saw what happened there, and we've got a virtual safety car, rightly so, because there will be debris all over the track from that one. The Racing Point pulled across to defend from the McLaren, but the McLaren was already there, so as he attempted to edge him off the track, Henner said, no, this isn't happening. I am here to win, and nothing less, and rightly so, because Henner, he stood his ground, and it just led to the Racing Point spinning around in front of him. We are green flag racing once more, however, and that gap between Yoda and Huaney at the front of the race is beginning to come down just a little bit. We took a look at what it was before, and we can see that it's now 1.2 seconds, so he's there or thereabouts. It was almost 2.1 seconds prior to the virtual safety car period, so a little bit of clever virtual safety car driving may have done the trick. Now, it's not cheating. Let's clarify that before you've got all your hard DMR fans on the YouTube channel all going, he's gained time under the VSC, that's not what's supposed to happen. It's actually fine. The virtual safety car works in-game by essentially asking you to drive to a delta. Now, if you go quicker than that set time as such, then of course you will get penalized. But there is a set period of time for which you can be over that, and it's just like, hey, you need to slow down or you're going to get a penalty. Make sure you go a little bit slower. You need to go slower. And then, of course, eventually you do, and all is well. If you can time it so that you're a little bit up on the delta, a little bit quicker than you should be prior to the safety car ending, then you don't get asked to slow down, and you crucially don't get the penalty. So potentially that's what's happening with Yoda, because he has in fact dropped off the back of Huaney just a little bit. His saving grace here, however, might be the fact that Huaney could get held up, but as we say that, he makes a simple DRS overtake. Just got the exit from the final corner, swooped around the outside with the DRS, and then was on the racing line before he even had to consider braking. So very, very nice from Huaney. Currently on Williams 1-2, but remember that Luigi does have to pit, and he will be serving a time penalty in that pit stop. So potentially a little bit more left to lose at that little battle. But Chris Gitsov, he was involved in that incident. He's now trying to make his way back through the field. He's got fellow Delta Motor Racing driver David right in front of him, and he's power sliding it through turn number 6, just hooking it up on the curve and trying to see if he can get round as Chen leaves the session. I can assure you that he will be a little upset with himself, shall we say, for that error. Chris Gitsov is in a little bit of a paradox. These guys, they're on the same strategy. In fact, their tyres are the same compound for the same amount of laps on the car. But he's definitely faster than David. He was, in fact, in front of David before all the little collisions happen. So he'll be looking to make this overtake, but David is not going to make it easy. Pulls to the inside, goes nice and defensive, and then once the Racing Point is through, tucks into the slipstream. Now, an interesting point about this track is where the DRS detection zones actually are. Now, like we mentioned, you get DRS if you are within 1 second of the car in front. Now, of course, where? You know, you can't judge it when you want to open the DRS, because there's calculations that need to be done, and race control in real life would need to confirm these things. So there are in fact the DRS detection zones, and they're white lines across the track if you've got eagle eyes or better eyesight than me, that is for sure. On Canada, however, these zones are reasonably far away from where you actually need to open the DRS. Yoda's just coming across one right now. The exit of turn number 9, that's the turn before that hairpin, is the DRS detection point for right about there. That white line there, DRS pops open. If he was outside a second there, it would not matter, providing he was inside a second through sector 2, which is where he you count it as such, where you just go, are you inside? You are, congrats, you'll have the DRS later. That also then gives you the DRS for the pit straight, as you can see right now, that Ferrari clearly not within a second of the Williams ahead, but gaining the benefit of DRS down the pit straight. That's because he was within a second of the now pitted Luigi car, and that gave him the DRS for both the end of Sector 3 and the beginning of the lap. There's of course the DRS zone in the middle of the lap, which the Ferrari is just getting towards now. You'll be able to open DRS from this point onwards. The detection point for that is just before turn 6. Now, there's the left-right beforehand, like there is before most of the straights around Canada. That's where that one is as well. So you're looking to get nice and close on the brakes, or get a run out of turn 4, so that you can then get the DRS down through Sector 2, because you will lose a lot of time being in the dirty air through 6 and 7. There's an old Mercedes battle for P number 7, and this I can assure you, these guys know each other. They'll be keeping an eye on each other. Most of the guys from DMR, very, very friendly, but very, very competitive, and I can assure you Netflix will be looking to make up an additional place if he can here. He's got the DRS down the pit straight, but he's not going to be anywhere near close enough to try a move quite yet. So you'll need to close up, and he's keeping it tidy. That's what matters. You can see he's just able to hold it a little bit closer to the apex through turn 2, and that's a huge tell in terms of tyre life, because if you've got the grip, you're able to hold it in, pull the car in, and kind of wrestle it towards the apex. And again, you can see David just using more of the track there. He's not willing to lean on that tyre, where Netflix most certainly is. He's got the DRS wide open on the run, the descent, if you will, into turn number 8. Not quite close enough there, but he's definitely going to be close enough come the back, or the final straights, into the hairpin. Not quite close enough, but this is the bit that matters. He's got a really nice exit. Normally you see the gap extend as the cars leave a corner, because the first one get on the power earlier, but we didn't see that there. They were on the power absolutely simultaneously. Look, pulls to the outside. He'll have the racing line and he'll have the position before they've even reached the DRS zone. And then he's got the DRS down the pit straight. Job done. Thank you very much. Gap is already half a second as they come into turn number 1. Now, providing he doesn't make a mistake here, that place should be his. He's, again, just able to hold a nicer, more clean line through the first corner. Gap is already up to 0.8 of a second, and that one will be all but done now. Vexit is, of course, another guy to keep an eye on. Now, remember, he started on the medium tyre compound. He currently has a set of 12-lap-old medium tyres on. So he, I believe, still has to make an additional pit stop to change the tyres from the mediums that he currently has on onto the softs. There is, of course, a chance that the guys in front of him will also have to do so, because, like we mentioned, 30 laps on a set of mediums, I've seen it done. It is possible. However, it is anything but easy. So he's hoping that guys in front still have to make a stop, but at the moment, he's hoping that he can get to the inside line. He's not going to get the move done before the brakes. He'll have to definitely brave it out. But he has the inside line. He has the high ground as such. And through he goes. DRS pops open and he descends into turn number 1. That was a very, very clean overtake. And he'll now set his sights forward. He's got a little bit older tyres than Fluffy and almost 6 seconds on that gap. But if he wants a chance at taking the crown, at taking the game here, he'll need to begin to make some inroads to the cars ahead. Someone who's certainly been making inroads is Yoda. That gap is now down to 0.7 of a second. He's within DRS. He's going to have DRS down the back straight, and his life will be so much easier now. Potentially just helping keep his tyres in check in the early part of the stint, and now he's beginning to push. He's closing. DRS now opens foot to the floor. He's not going to be close enough this time around, but he'll find a little bit of time on the brakes. And in fact, Whaney into the pits. He is going to come in and make sure that he puts on that fresh set potentially defending an undercut. Now, where he will come out is going to be absolutely crucial. He might just about make it out in front of the Vex. I don't know, he's going to come out behind it, and that is going to be absolutely crucial. Still in the pit, still falling down the order. He's just ahead of his teammate now, but it's not been a fantastic pit stop. He comes out just behind Netherlook on a fresh set of the medium tyres. Now these mediums certainly will make it to the end, and in fact Netherlook just gets out of the way. A little bit of teammanship, a little bit of gamesmanship through the first sector for the Delta Motor Racing guys. These guys, they are in a Discord call. They know who's competing for the win, and this really matters, not only for the game, but like we mentioned, these bragging rights between the leagues will reign at least until the next time we do one of these, which I certainly hope we do. Hwani now, he's got 4.2 seconds to find the car in front. In terms of the gap, 60. That is less than a pit stop. Yoda's going to come in this lap. He knows how strong the undercut can be, but Netherlook, he got out of the way. He didn't hold up Hwani, and this could be crucial. Yoda in the pits, he's still stopped. Now he's moving once more, but the Williams is already onto the pit straight. Can Hwani get the job done in the pits? He's going to be ahead. Yoda accelerates now. He's going to be just behind though, I believe. He's not going to be close enough. In fact, he might even get held up by Luigi. No, he swoops out in front of Luigi. That was remarkable. But he's lost about 1.7 seconds to Hwani, which is a huge gap to try and find. Speaking of the devil of those Williams cars, Luigi's not giving up. His tyres, they're only 5 laps old. He is still pushing, and he'll be looking to make it to the end of the race on these, I would expect. So this is for position. Can the Williams get up into what would be P1 and 2? Yoda will not have the DRS. Luigi most certainly will. He almost looked to the inside into the airpin, just showing the Ferrari, filling the mirrors full of that iconic white and blue livery of Williams. Already, Ferrari driver Yoda, he looks to break the slipstream, but the Williams follows him. Luigi all over the back. DRS open, he looks to the inside, not quite close enough this time. Can he get a better run through the chicane? Yes, he can. DRS immediately open. Ferrari goes so defensive. He's got to colour the line. He doesn't have an option not to. But he's not quite close enough as Luigi, and he's going to need to get the move done sooner rather than later, because in a couple of laps, he'll lose the initial grip of that medium tyre compound, potentially by the end of this one even. And when that happens, he'll drop like a stone compared to Yoda, but at the moment, he's still right there. The gap up to 0.4 of a second through the initial sector, but now we reach the first DRS zone. This will allow him just to close up a little bit, not lose quite so much time. You can see, despite losing a tenth through turns 6 and 7, he's able to pull that back on the run down to 8 and 9. He'll certainly be close enough to have the DRS once more on this double straight at the end of the lap. He gets a very, very nice exit out of the hairpin, but the Ferrari does so too, pulls away, and then DRS flicks open. You can see the revs climbing on that really identifiable Williams dashboard, because of course the screen is on the car, it's not on the steering wheel like on every single other Formula 1 car. Williams stand by that as helping the drivers see it, because they always know where the screen is, but of course there is the downside whereby you turn the wheel and you can see that butterfly wheel fixed perfectly over the screen. So he might be a little bit distracted by that if he's not used to driving the Williams, but he will be focused as much as he possibly can on the car ahead through the chicane. Not quite close enough. In fact, it's identical to where he was last time around. He's able to keep that gap at just under half a second, oscillating a little bit over it sometimes, and then using the DRS to pull back in. But he's not able to get any closer. Of course, all this fighting is only helping Hwani at the front. He's currently 1.5 seconds clear of this pair, and as soon as he's past Vexit, he'll have completely free road up ahead of him, which you can anticipate happening relatively soon. This time around, however, Luigi very, very deep at the hairpin. He pushes it just a little bit too far on the brakes. That drops him over a second back. Now, like we mentioned earlier, he does still have the DRS, you can see it open there, a split in the rocket sponsoring on the back of that car, and he'll still have it down the pit straight, but now he's got work to do if he wants to bring that gap back down. It's 7/10 as they cross the line to begin lap 24 of 35. We're over 2/3 race distance now, only 12 laps left to go. And he's still got the overtake to make. Quaney right on the back of DMR Vexit, and it should be a pretty straightforward pass, assuming he catches him at the right point. He'll have the DRS now as they come through the middle of Sector 2. Vexit pulls to the inside to try and cover it, but it's not quite possible. Now, Vexit, of course, like we mentioned, he is also DMR. They will all be in a call together. And, of course, that does help out a little bit when you can sit in a Discord call and go, hey, dude, please don't hook me up. I'm really hoping. Can you just hold up the guy behind me instead? And that is what Vexit will certainly try to do. He's already lost 1.2 seconds to Hoeni, so potentially a little bit of a hold up anyway. But now it's Yoda who's got to try and get past. Crucially for Luigi, Luigi not only is outside the DRS zone of that Ferrari, but that Ferrari is now the one with DRS, so that might be the charge of the second Williams beginning to halt. Notably, Yoda didn't open the DRS down that straight, so we might be struggling a little bit. Now, I doubt he's got a DRS malfunction. I don't believe that can even happen in the online lobbies. But he potentially have had a move into turn number 1. Instead, he's looking around the outside into turn number 7. That's not quite going to work out. It would have given him the inside. Instead, he'll have to look for the exit. Closing. He pulls to the inside. Look with a with a late defense to the inside. He'll then still have the inside into the corner. There was contact. Complete and utter contact there between the two of them. You saw Luke was still very, very much on the inside line. The Ferrari turned in, and I'm not sure there was much Luke could do about that one. He was just pushed in the way. You saw that's the rotation that happened on the car. The Renault spun inwards towards the corner, which would imply that that little nudge from the Ferrari was all it took. Fortunately for Luigi, however, that little battle has allowed him to close right on up, and we'll save judgment quite yet. I do believe that goes on to the Ferrari driver, but of course stewards and the drivers themselves will still have everything to say about that one. In the race right now, it is Luigi who is closing all the time onto Yoda. He's very, very close now, only 5/10 away, and this is where he was before the Ferrari gained the DRS, before the Ferrari had the opportunity to find a little bit extra lap time down the straights. The question is, this time around, can he get it done? Absinthe now picks up a 3-second time penalty, and what was looking so good for him in the early stages in this race is just beginning to fall apart. He put on that hard tyre in an attempt to run it longer than the guys around him, and that might even have been a snap decision when he saw himself getting held up in the pits. But the guys in front have now pitted, and he's still not with the likes of DMR and Yoda. In fact, he's over 20 seconds off the back of them. Once again, Luigi, he's not quite close enough, and now he'll come into the pits. So, not willing to get held up, he's not going to try a hugely long stint on the medium tyres. Instead, he comes in, and he's going to swap them out. Now, the question for me is, where is he going to pot out relative to Absinthe? We know Absinthe has a 3-second time penalty. So could that potentially play a factor? DMR, Luigi, he's still dropping down the order. Absinthe is in the toe of the Mercedes in front of him, coming down the straight right now, and it's not even going to be close. DMR Luigi gets out in front of the guys behind very, very easily, and has about 4.8 seconds worth of clean air ahead of him. Now, he is a long way off of the guys in front of the lead. He's almost 19 seconds as we take a look there. But it's not over. 19 seconds, he's got 8 laps. He'd certainly have to push very, very hard, but he could definitely be looking at a podium here. Yet, he's got about 5 seconds until the podium spots. So if he can find that one, then he is looking much, much more solid. I tell you what, he has about 9 seconds. I cannot do maths as it turns out, which is worrying considering that I study physics in my day life, as you will. By day a commentator, by day a physicist, by night a commentator. And I'm sure in the comments you guys can let me know which you rather I did, whether you'd rather I stuck to the physics or, I don't know, maybe you guys enjoy my dulcet Scottish, occasionally hard to understand tones. At the front, not too much has changed. Blaney's still maintaining that gap over the car behind him and Yoda, and then just behind them it's Fluffy, who of course was initially in that battle, but then I believe he had a slow pit stop, potentially serving a penalty, which has dropped him a little bit back down the order. We also saw that his restart was a little bit scruffy as well. The only battle really on track right now in the top 10 is Chris Gitsov versus Henner. Chris, very, very close on the brakes, and this is another inter-league battle. This is why we set this one up. These guys, they don't know each other. Of course, you race against the same people week in, week out in the same league, the same tier of your respective league, and you learn them. You'll learn how they drive. You know if they're going to look for the cutback on you, if they're going to brake early, if they're just going to park it on the apex to attempt to compromise your exit. These two, they don't have any of that information. This is a pure out-and-out battle for position number 4, which, come a little mistake from the guys at the front who are certainly pushing, could very easily be a podium. So it's all at stake here for 4th position, and the gap's at about half a second as further down the order. The hard runners have a little duel amongst themselves. That's Zamas getting past Absinthe for P9, but of course we know Absinthe does in fact have a time penalty, so he already had that position on race time, if you will. Chris, however, he's not much closer than he was as they come through the ending of sector number 2. The gap's maintained at around about 6/10, but we've seen earlier on with that Luigi battle that you do need to be probably around about 4/10 off the back of the car in front as you come onto the straight. Now, he has managed to close it down. It was 4/10 for a moment, back up to 5 on exit, but that will allow him to close up. The move not making itself available into the final chicane, but it might present itself into the first corner racing point, closing all the time. And don't forget, you've got DMR Luigi just behind this battle. Luigi on the softer compound of tyres, so he is really coming as well. Luigi, in fact, closed right up before we hit the safety car, and I believe that's Vexit. The Wall of Champions claims yet another victim. The Renault of Vexit hit it on lap number 29 of 35 for him. And that's another one biting the dust. We had 4 eliminated at the beginning of the race from that one. Another one claimed in the final third. And it's all still to play for, because the safety car is exactly what we needed to just bring these guys together. Not only will we have a duel at the front, because of course Hwayne was beginning to get away a little bit, we will now have DMR Fluffy Balls. He'll be involved in that one as well, as will Henner and Chris Gitsov. And of course, DMR Luigi will be right in that fight on the softer compound of tyres. If he wants to win this thing, he's got 6 laps remaining, probably 4 or 5 by the time the safety car's over, and 5 cars to overtake. 5 cars in 5 laps? That's not unreasonable. That's not unreasonable at all. Blaney will catch the safety car round about now. You can see that Mark just going through, and he's pushing too hard to catch it. He's gone off into the dirt, and of course, whilst that's not important in terms of time loss, as Yoda has come in to put on a fresh set of softs, as has Fluffy and Henner. So the strategy duel really, really at its peak now. These guys have dropped down the order. Of course, Yoda was P2, DMR Fluffy Balls P3, and Henner P4. All of these guys has come in for a set of softs, and in fact, pretty much everyone beneath Luigi has come in for a fresh set of softs. Of course, Absinthe was already on them after a little bit of a penalty and collision, I believe. And then you also had Liam already swapping to a set of softs as a result of the strategy. But everybody else has just come in for a set of softs. That means that Hwayne is leading the way. Chris Gitsov and DMR Luigi will complete a Delta Motor Racing top 3. But then you've got Yoda, 4th, fresh set of softs. Fluffy, 5th, fresh set of softs. Henner, 6th, fresh set of softs. Absinthe, 7th, pretty much a fresh set of softs. They're not actually fresh, but they'll be there or thereabouts. David, fresh set of softs. Nethluke, fresh set of softs. Zamas, fresh set of softs. Luctra, fresh set of softs. Liam, not quite. And Total Wizard, also on a fresh set of soft tires. So, for me, this puts the ball right into Luigi's court. Now, his soft tires will go off a little bit towards the end of the stint, probably about 2 or 3 laps time. The longer they spend under the safety car, the better it is for him. But he's got track position. He'll have the pace on Chris Gitzoff, and we know he's got the pace on Houeni from monitoring the gaps just prior to this safety car period. So, assuming he can make the overtakes in a clean manner, for me, he suddenly becomes the favourite. Houeni's strategy of staying out in the mediums was fantastic, until everybody else also came into the pits for softs. If it's only Yoda who pits for softs, then he comes out the pits way down the order, probably in about 6th or 7th by the time he's gone into the pits and come back out with everybody pushing to catch up the safety car. And suddenly it looks like an awful decision, but for Yoda, everybody else also decided to come into the pits, and he's now only lost 2 positions and has the tyre advantage, which is a wonderful situation. The safety car will go round at least one more time as the guys at the back field just come round to catch up. That's Liam and Wizard looking to catch up. Of course, the 14th place Toro Rosso is indeed in the pack. You can see it just occasionally from that shot in amongst the pack. It's in fact just there, right behind Yoda. You can see one of the Toro Rossos right there, in front of the Haas. And he's down a lap. He will be blue flagged if we go racing again. I doubt they're going to let him come round and catch up the pack, if you will, unlap himself, since the rest of the cars are now filing through the chicane. We should be good to go green at the end of this lap, and that will give us 3 laps of green flag racing to round out this remarkable event so far. Can Houeni hold on? Can DMR Luigi complete what would be an inspired strategy call? Can Yoda, for that matter, come through the field? He'll have 3 laps and 3 cars to overtake, which sounds difficult, but we have seen crazier things happen. And I can assure you, if Houeni's mirrors become full of red come the hairpin on the final lap, that pressure will be huge, because you know that the Ferrari is going to be able to stop later on the brakes. You know he's going to be able to get on the power earlier out of the final corner, so you might make an error. Safety car, however, still lapping, coming through the chicane as Luctra picks up a penalty. 5 seconds for exceeding track limits under safety car, and that might be a little bit of a glitch, and we do apologise to Luctra if in fact it was. The safety car track limits, they suddenly become incredibly reduced, and you pick up a penalty as soon as you cross the line under safety car. It's a little bit bugged, but of course F1 2020, that's what these guys are playing for, and it's because it comes out very soon where these issues should not be a factor. This restart is crucial. Houeni at the front of the field. He controls the pace. You can see he's weaving. He's not going to give away when he goes, and it's for him crucial that the racing point behind him holds up the field a little bit. He's already gone much earlier than we saw on that first restart, I believe. And then a little bit of damage. That was Luigi. He's picked up damage, and already Yoda challenging for the lead into turn number 1. Can he get the move done on the Williams of Houeni? Not quite. He was forced out wide. I believe a little bit of end plate damage on Yoda. That moves Luigi up into 2nd position, but he's also got end point damage. Gitzoff, he looked to be in a fantastic position, but he's retired from the session. In fact, there is, on the right-hand side of Luigi's car, he's got damage, and now he's got a 3-second time penalty. So his only job is now to hold up Yoda. He will not win this race overall, because finding 3 seconds on 1 lap with wing damage is simply not possible. He's now got to work as a team. He's got to make sure that the car behind does not get past him, and that's exactly what it's done. Yoda sides down the inside into the hairpin at turn number 10. That puts him onto the back of Huini. Of course, DRS not yet enabled. It gets disabled under the safety cars, and it will only be enabled next time round. Will that prove to be a little safety, a little guardian angel for Huini? He comes through the final corner, and it's in fact Yoda coming under pressure. Luigi pulls out of the slipstream. He's going to have the inside into turn number 1. Can he make the move stick? We've seen time and time again running around the outside as possible. There's a little bit of contact. Round goes to William. He had the penalty, but now he's plummeting down the order in real life. Yoda, however, at the front. He's got one more lap. 35 laps in a race. 34 completed. He's got 0.6 of a second to find, but he's got all of the advantage. He's got the softer tyre on his car. He's got a completely intact wing despite that robust restart, to say the least. And it's on him. Can he make it through? He's closing all the time. Closing. He's going to go to the outside into the hairpin. Can he brake late enough? Not quite. And in fact, going to the outside has allowed Absinthe up the inside. He'll get the better exit than the Haas, and in fact, a little bit of further contact in the background. This is going to come down to the last corner. Williams defends the inside. He's going to cover it. Ferrari pulls out the slipstream on the outside. He'll be able to brake later on the softs. Can he get it done? No. Fantastic control from Huini. He'll come across the line. He'll definitely cross the line first. Will the Ferrari take it on penalties? Yes, he does. Huini had penalties. Yoda takes the win. It's Huini second. Absinthe comes third. Henner fourth. William fifth. Total Wizard sixth. Seventh is Fluffy. 8th is Lutra. And then Zamas and one of the Mercedes round out your top 10. What a race. Huini crossing the line in first, but he had penalties. He had 3 seconds worth of time penalties. That gives the win. And of course, that very, very important copy of F1 2020 to the Ferrari man. Congratulations to Yoda. He pushed, he made sure that he got himself onto that front row of the grid. He then got a little bit mugged off the line, had all the work left to do, and now his avatar celebrates, and rightly so, after a well-earned victory. Of course, we've got to congratulate the rest of the drivers as well. They made this event what it was, and credit to all of them for providing an incredibly good race. Also, we've got to give a little bit of thank you to the admins, and of course to Misfits Racing League, and to the admins at Delta Motor Racing League as well. Both of these guys have put together an incredible event, and particularly Misfits, of course, donating a copy of F1 2020 to the winner and a copy of F1 2020 to one of their Twitch viewers. So, congratulations to Yoda. Commiserations to Huey picking up a penalty right on the line. My name has been Tom Davis, and on behalf of Delta Motor Racing League, thank you for a wonderful event and a wonderful season.